Today, I'm going to build the scariest team of all time, bringing in players who have been terrified to play against throughout NFL history, starting with our tight ends. According to this article, Rob Gronkowski was considered a new kind of monster by defenders around the league for his play on the field. From his incredible touchdown catches to using his 6'6" stature to block, Rob Gronkowski will be our starting tight end, followed by a similar player in George Kittle, who is still causing havoc in the NFL right now. To help me build this team, I'll be using articles, sports show commentaries, NFL moments, and much more. But let me tell you, the scariest doesn't always mean the strongest, and to show you that, we have our first wide receiver joining the team. Shannon Sharpe recently said that he is convinced that Tyreek Hill is the scariest player in the NFL because of his speed. And just like that, we have our first wide receiver on our team. After we build the scariest NFL team of all time, we will see if they can strike fear into the rest of the current NFL and win a Super Bowl in just one season. Moving to the rest of the wide receivers, we have Calvin Johnson, whose nickname was Megatron because of his monster 6'5", 236-pound frame, and he's considered one of the best receivers of all time. Randy Moss will be wide receiver number 3 on our team, since he came in at number 13 on this most intimidating players in the NFL article because of his deep threat ability. And the last receiver that we were adding to our team is DK Metcalf. He was listed as the number 2 scariest player of all time a couple years back, and I don't think that's changed much. And there's gonna be some players that you might think that should make the scariest team but don't make the list, but let me know who you think should definitely be on this team. Continuing with our offense, let's bring in some big boys in the trenches, starting with Trent Williams. He is by far the scariest offensive lineman in the NFL, coming in at 320 pounds, but he moves so fast. And according to 2 separate shows, Quentin Nelson and Ryan Jensen are 2 of the scariest offensive linemen in the NFL for their hard-nosed plays in the trenches. John Hanna will be the right guard on our offensive line, and he's considered the most devastating blocker in NFL history. And joining him will be Taylor Lewan, who is one of the most intimidating offensive tackles. And just like that, our offensive line is now complete with incredibly scary players. Tom Brady comes in as the number 1 scariest quarterback of all time, and it's definitely not because of his speed or his strength. But he is the greatest of all time for a reason, and that's because he scared opponents' defenses with his football IQ and skill. I also added Patrick Mahomes as a backup QB because he was named scariest quarterback by the NFL, and he's able to shred defenses with throws inside and outside the pocket. As for the backfield, Derrick Henry tops the list of the scariest running backs in the modern era. He terrorized defenders with his strength and speed, earning him a spot on our roster. As for our second running back, this was a very tough choice, but I decided to go with Earl Campbell. Coming in at 5'11" and 244 pounds, Earl Campbell ran over defenders. Closing out our offense, the scariest fullback of all time, according to this article, is Larry Zonka, and he will be our starting fullback. And just like that, we have our scariest offense of all time. But if you think that is scary, just wait till you see who makes the list on defense. Starting with the middle linebacker. Coming in at number 4 on the all-time scariest player list is Ray Lewis. He would instill fear into his opponents before the game even started, and then he was a force of dominance on the field. Joining him will be Jack Lambert. And at number 1, we have Dick Butkus. He made it his mission to punish ball carriers every single snap. And how can it get scarier than this, right? Well, at outside linebacker, we have a current player in TJ Watt. Next up, we have James Harrison at left outside linebacker, and he comes in at number 10 all-time with his bone-crushing hits. And to close out the linebacker core, you know we have to bring in Lawrence Taylor, and he comes in at number 2 on the list of the scariest NFL players of all time. Moving on to the defensive line, we have some current-day players in Myles Garrett and Aaron Donald. Using this NFL article from a few years ago, Myles Garrett comes in at number 10, while Aaron Donald comes in at number 3. And joining them will be another current player in Nick Bosa. Arguably one of the best defensive players in the NFL right now, JJ Watt comes in at number 7 on this list, recording multiple 20-sack seasons and causing havoc on the field. Continuing on the defensive line, we have Reggie White coming off the edge, and he used to toss offensive linemen aside with his one hand, including Larry Allen. Joining Aaron Donald at defensive tackle, we have John Randall. He would intimidate his opponents with face paint, and he was a ferocious tackler. Moving on to the secondary, and this player wasn't really known for his strength or his speed, but Darrelle Revis caused quarterbacks to throw into the opposite side of the field, earning himself the nickname Revis Island. Joining him will be 2 extremely hard-hitting corners in Night Train Lane and Charles Woodson. There has been so many safeties that could make this list, but I narrowed it down to just 4. At strong safety, we have Jack Tatum, whose nickname was the Assassin, and Troy Polamalu will be joining him with plays like this, sacking the quarterback before he even has a chance to step back. Coming in at number 9 on the most feared tacklers of all time is Steve Atwater, and backing him up will be Ronnie Lott, who comes in as an honorable mention on this list for his ability to send receivers to the ground faster than any defensive back in NFL history. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any article or sports commentary about a scary punter, so I just picked a free agent, but at kicker, there's no one more feared than Justin Tucker. Now that we assembled the scariest team of all time, let's see if they can lift the Lombardi trophy. And the first game against a very good 49ers team started off strong as Brady was surgical moving down the field, but the Niners defense got a huge stop on 4th and goal. Early in the second quarter, Earl Campbell easily walks into the end zone to take the lead. And the scariest team's defense and offense played lights out the rest of the way, earning themselves a 35-7 win, making Brock Purdy look awful, only throwing 112 yards. After that huge win in the season opener, the scariest team of all time continued their dominance, winning their next 5 games and are currently undefeated. And after simming the rest of the season, the scariest team ends up going undefeated with a 17-0 record and now have a first-round bye heading into the playoffs. They ended up with the most points for and the least points given up, which is quite impressive. And as expected, Tom Brady finished first in the NFL with 5,200 passing yards and a record-breaking 65 touchdowns. Kenny Pickett somehow landed on the Chiefs and threw 21 picks. No surprise here, but Earl Campbell finished with 27 touchdowns, while Hill, Calvin, and Gronk all finished with over 1,000 receiving yards. And I don't even think our defense is fair, with Watt, Taylor, Garrett, and Donald all with impressive sack numbers, taking on the 10-7 LA Chargers in the divisional round with Derwin James as their top threat. With home field advantage, the team of the scariest players were able to dominate on their first drive, scoring in just 3 plays thanks to Brady and Earl Campbell. Brady has lots of time in the pocket and throws a strike to Calvin Johnson to take a 2-score lead. Herbert struggled to get anything going in the first half, and the scariest team take a 28-0 lead heading into halftime. The second half was more of the same, with Brady throwing lasers, this time to Gronk in the end zone. The team of the scariest players all time end up winning 42-7 and are now moving on to the AFC Championship game. The defense held Herbert to just 100 yards and no touchdowns. Next up is Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. It was a tough start for Lamar, getting sacked on a big 3rd down, and before you knew it, the scariest team was up 14 and Tom Brady finds Gronk for a big 9-yard gain before going to Tyreek Hill on a slant route for a 6. The game quickly got out of hand, with the scariest team now moving on to the Super Bowl after winning 45-3, while the defense held Lamar to just 88 passing yards. And to no one's surprise, Tom Brady won NFL MVP, while JJ Watt won Defensive Player of the Year, with Lawrence Taylor right behind him. We have a rematch from our season opener in the Super Bowl, but let's see if Brock Purdy can have a better game. But the pressure gets him on 3rd down, and Tom Brady gets his chance on offense, handing it off to Earl Campbell, who takes it to the outside and picks up a huge gain. But unfortunately, Tom Brady went 0 for 3 passing the ball, giving the ball back to Brock Purdy and the Niners. He ends up finding Jennings for a huge gain, and then he hands it off to Najee Harris, who scores the first touchdown of the game. This feels like the first time that the scariest team trails in the game. Faced with a big 3rd and 16, Brady completely misses Randy Moss for the first down. Luckily, the defense got a stop, and Randy Moss was able to score an 83-yard touchdown to cut the lead to 3 just before halftime. Tom Brady missed a wide-open Tyreek Hill for a touchdown, but they ended up settling for a field goal to tie the game. With the game all tied up, Brady makes a great pass to Tyreek Hill and then followed it up by throwing a dot to Earl Campbell. 2nd and goal. Tom Brady throws yet another interception. What is happening to clutch Tom Brady? Purdy is faced with a 3rd down, and he fails to get a first down. Brady gets his team into field goal range, but can Justin Tucker make it? The kick is up, and it's good! And the team of the scariest players of all time win the Super Bowl. If you enjoyed this video, definitely go check out where I built the most expensive team in the NFL. I know you'll like it.